Hello, everybody. Welcome to the newest episode of the podcast. And today we have an extremely special guest. We have Aanghel on. Aanghel, how are you doing today?
Doing good, bro. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. I wanted to start with a little bit of a story, which for me, this is honestly an incredibly surreal moment. So back in 2016, 2017, I started my no-fap journey. And when I started my no-fap journey, I ran across your channel. And I remember seeing like the Eye of Horus, I believe you had as your channel DP at that point.
Yeah, I had a hat that had the Eye of Horus on it.
Yeah, and I assumed you were Egyptian actually. So I I thought you were Muslim at that point. So I remember watching your videos, I'm like, "Oh, the brother's Muslim, the brother's Muslim." And then I think you did talk about being agnostic in one of your videos, and I'm like, "Inshallah, one day he converts to Islam." And when you came out with that reverted to Islam video, it was such a surreal moment for me. I thought back to that moment, and I'm not gonna lie, when I first started this podcast, or when I had the intention of starting this podcast, I remember specifically saying, "I wanna get Anhal on to tell him that story."
Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. So you said you started no-fap. How's that been for you?
It was one of the most difficult journeys I've ever experienced because the pain of not fapping for 3, 4, 10 days, especially after you've done it. It's not even fapping, I'd say it's relationships in general. It's extremely difficult to overcome. And it's very understandable for young men to relapse because the pain you experience from it, it's something that I found paralyzing. Like, I found it incredibly difficult to do anything because the only thing that was on my mind is I wanted to release the load, release the load. So the underlying issue is the fact that people aren't channeling their libido into their goals. And the fact that a lot of young men today are nihilistic or they lack meaning in their life, they don't have that opportunity to channel their libido or their creative energy into a proper pursuit. And you need to be able to move that energy from something that's viewed as negative to something that's a net positive for you. So with my nofap journey, I started in 2016, 2017, and I tried my hardest to stop, but I couldn't. I couldn't. Everybody goes through that phase where they're telling themselves, I want to stop, I want to stop, I want to stop. But the issue is they still have that identity of somebody who faps. What I realized is if you want to stop fapping, you want to move that fapping away and adopt the identity of somebody who doesn't fap, which is very similar to the approach people take to stopping the cigarette smoking. Is they adopt the identity of not being a smoker, which stops them from smoking. But the ability to remove that set identity from oneself is extremely difficult, and it takes time. So patience and belief in yourself. Sabr is incredibly important on your no-fap journey. Now, so 2016, 27, I kept doing it. I kept doing it. There'll be points where I'd go like 40, 50, 60 days. I'd be counting the days, but I wouldn't make the days count. And then I think in 2019, 2020, I got to the point where had enough. I had a lot of stuff going on, and I just told myself, look, if I fap again, I'll take on internal damnation. And I made an oath to Allah that I'll never do it again in 2020. And alhamdulillah, it's been 4 years. I haven't done it whatsoever. So it's alhamdulillah. And one thing that really benefited was actually watching your videos, watching Hamza's videos, watching a couple other brothers' videos online, and actually applying what you were saying, not just simply just consuming the content, but the application of said content, which I do
Mm.
find today is lacks a lot in the self-improvement sphere where people watch videos on, oh, dopamine detox, but how many people are actually dopamine detoxing? And I do, if I remember correctly, that dopamine detox actually led you to Islam.
For sure.
Mm.
For sure.
Is-
Yeah, bro, let's take a step back because
Mhm,
you had mentioned that you were going in your journey and then you hit a point where you were like, you know what, if I just continue doing this, then I'm just have to for the rest of my life and not just
mhm.
this life, but the next as
Yeah.
well. Like put that into clarity because I'm sure there's a lot of people watching that maybe they believe
Mhm,
in God, but perhaps they don't even follow religion. Perhaps in their
mhm,
mind they have this understanding that, well, what is the point of religion? Well, how
mhm.
is that going to help me in regards to nofap, in regards to self improvement?
So we can go on talking about all the logical arguments for God, for example, the first mover argument, but I do believe any sort of logical convincing to the person is not actually going to benefit them. What I do believe is going to benefit them is for them to actually go and experience what it is like to be around religious people. And yes, there's a negative connotation behind religious people. I would say being able to look past said negative connotation and simply viewing them as a human being is very integral. The only way for you to do that is first by going out and actually experiencing life itself. Don't sit at your house, try new things out. Now, the reason why I say that is because I fully believe humans are emotional creatures, so you first have to connect with them emotionally. Then maybe said logic will serve to help them understand that yes, said religion is true.
I guess the question that I would ask you, I feel like the podcast is now it's Angel with the guest of Shahab-Khan, but I'm just playing, bro. So the question I would ask is like, how did
Mhm,
that make the biggest change for you? Because off the camera, we were talking about how
mhm,
it has not always been like this for you,
mhm,
right? You weren't always that practicing. You didn't always have that strong belief in
mhm,
God. You were just like any other person, any other man out here, just
mhm,
living a very degenerate lifestyle, just living about
mhm.
your own desires, hedonistic, right? So how has that changed for you? What has that changed for you?
How it's changed is it's a bit hard for me to say because there's a lot of emotional attachment involved with this. However, I'll do my best to explain it. It's that when you go down that hedonistic pathway, I'll clarify this. At a point, I was atheist for like 2, 3 years. And when I was atheist, I would sometimes go to bed crying, go like, what's the point of life? Why am I here? I felt extremely nihilistic. I felt like there's nobody there for me in my moments of difficulty, that nobody truly cared about me. Like I didn't care about myself either. And that served to honestly spiritually destroy me. And I would chase all these desires to distract me from that feeling of not having anybody there for me, that feeling of not believing in myself, that feeling of not being the man I wanted to be. And eventually, I reached a breaking point. And upon that breaking point, I looked at myself, or I tried looking at myself in the mirror, and I couldn't do it. I'd break down crying, and then I would I decided a lot of people on YouTube is talking about meditation. Let me give meditation a shot. So I started meditating, and when I meditated, I said during that meditation, I thought, okay, maybe what my parents are saying about religion, how they interpreted it, wasn't the actual way religion is. Maybe the way the West is teaching me religion isn't the answer. So those thoughts entered my head, and I said, okay, let me actually learn about religions. I went in, Christianity didn't make any sense. Unfortunately, the idea of the Trinity just didn't resonate with me. The other religions, the non-monotheistic religions, I couldn't fathom the understanding of multiple different deities. Judaism, as it's stated, it's very hard to convert to Judaism or move towards it.
Supposedly
And
nowadays you can convert,
mhm,
but it's not really accepted by the real Jews because
yeah,
it's not blood, you know?
yeah, it's extremely hard to move into their in group. They will always view you as an out group, and that lack of community moved me away from Judaism. And I said, okay, so I was born Muslim, so why don't we actually sit down and understand Islam? And as I read more onto it, explored it myself, it came to me that yes, okay, this is true. This is the solution to the problems I've been looking for. Some of the stuff, for example, the eschatology in Islam or the end times prophecies, they were coming true before my eyes. And I said, okay, why am I continuing to deny this? There seems to be truth in it. So I opened my heart to it and I started trying my best to practice. And I went on an exchange to work in a hospital in Egypt. And in that hospital, I saw people around me dying. I specifically remember a situation where I was shadowing a physician who was doing a surgery with the child. I think the child was about 4 or 5 months of age. And they ended up getting a hematoma. I don't remember if it was a subdural hematoma. So they hit their head and there was bleeding in the head.
Hmm.
And they operated on the child for like 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. But what ended up happening was I left due to the fact that it got really late. It was like 6, 7 AM there, and I couldn't keep on standing. So I went home. I slept for like 3, 4 hours. I come back with my cousin, and there's a woman outside the room crying. I don't understand Arabic, so I'm wondering what's going on, what's going on? Why is she crying? I tried comforting her, and the hospital staff told me in English, "This is the mother of the child from last night. The child died." And that hit me in a manner where I realized death is incredibly near. That no matter how hard we try to run from it, it will always catch up to us. So after that, I think about a week later, we went on a trip to Mount Sinai. Although historically, it might not actually be the Mount Sinai that Musa, peace be upon him, was on. People
That's
consider it that.
Moses. That's Moses
M-
for people who don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's supposed to. So Musa is the Arabic word for Moses,
Mhm.
and it's like the Ilaha is the Arabic version of Allah. So I was climbing out Mount Sinai with my friends, and it was like a 5 6 hour walk up. And I remember there was a small mosque on the top, and my friend, he's incredibly practicing, and I'll account my return to religion to him actually. He said, "Akhi, let's pray Fajr." And I'm like, I don't even know if I remember how to pray properly. Do I remember Surah Fatiha? Do I even know how to do the ruku now? I don't know what's going on. So, despite the fact I didn't know the what to do, my friend said, "Okay, just follow me in prayer." And we did the Fajr, and I remember specifically going down and doing the prostration where the head hits the floor. And in that moment, it hit me, God is real. God does exist. I've just been denying it my entire life for the benefits of my own ego and my own desires. And the moment I was able to accept that, I was able to embrace said change and begin moving to become the person I want to become. It's like the concept in Stoicism where they say amor fati, to love and accept fate. And it's very similar to the dialectic approach and the dialectic behavioral therapy approach, where they say, in order for you to change your identity, you must first accept what's going on. So the therapist helps you validate who you are. And that said validation, that said acceptance helps you to change to become the person you ideally view yourself to be.
Hmm. Yeah, it makes sense, bro. It makes sense, and I like you said, it's that's what changed it for you. It it reminds me a lot of mine. It reminds me a lot of many journeys that I hear of people. And I'm gonna try to bring it back because there was a lot to unpack with that.
Mhm,
But number one, what you had said about the kids. When
mhm,
you're young, you have a lot of testosterone. If you
mhm,
don't have discipline, if you don't have a set way of doing things, or if you just don't have an outlet
mhm,
for that test,
mhm,
well, then it's going to control you. You're going to be
mhm,
over here beating off several times per day. It's just a sad reality, right? But while it's understandable, it's not acceptable
mhm,
because if you ask any young if you ask any young man, you ask
mhm,
him, what is it that you want in your life? What do you actually want to do? Do you want to be successful? What does success look like for you? Is it having a family? Is it having the finances? Is it having power? Is it knowing how to defend yourself? Is
mhm,
it, I don't know, being in the military? Is it opening up your own business? What does success look like for you? And
mhm,
they'll tell you whatever it is that they're going to tell you, right? But then now that you have to follow up that question, what you're doing right now, is
mhm,
that aligned with it? If you're beating off several times a day, if you're over here watching other people have sex, how is that helping you to become this man that you just said? And then from there, when they start to understand, they wake up, it's like they're opening their mind. Well, then you put it into perspective. You say, look, it's not that special. There's no crazy thing that you have to do. There's no secret sauce. You just have to put in the work. You have to
mhm,
see what it is that you want. You have to figure out how it is that you can do that in the most realistic sense. And then you actually have to take action day in and day out. It's really that simple. Right? So
mhm,
that's the first thing. That right there will do so much for men
mhm,
who are struggling with no-fap and they want to be able to overcome it. It's like, dude, have direction.
Mhm.
right? There's this thing that I heard in a podcast yesterday, which
Mhm.
said feelings push, ideas direct.
Oh, that's a banger.
Bro, I had to like think about it for a second.
Mhm.
Feelings push,
Mhm.
so you could feel like you want to change, like you want to be a
Mhm.
better man, like you want to actually be successful, all that stuff. But if you don't have the idea of where you're going, like if you don't have the target, bro, you're running around aimlessly. You're going all over the
Mhm.
place.
It's like feelings nudge you towards a certain direction, and it's up to you to take action to move towards said direction. And one thing I really like that you brought up was the importance of asking yourself the right questions. Rami actually discussed the same thing yesterday. He says what you should be doing is you should be taking time to think about what you're going to do, asking yourself questions, as because you asking questions will actually lead you to a solution. I believe that intelligence stems from you finding you thinking about the question you want to ask yourself, because the said question will actually result in you moving towards a solution. But in order for you to get to that question, you need to realize you have a problem. And how many young men think no-fap or think fapping is a problem?
Some of them, not all of them. Some of
Mhm,
them think that there's nothing wrong with it because that's what they're being told by everyone
mhm.
around them.
Yes, and I do believe a lot of that stems from the fact that men tried their best to avoid thinking, to avoid bearing responsibility. They don't want the pain associated with it because they fear the rejection or they fear failure. But the only way to become a success is through going through said failures, to experiencing said difficulties. Because I view it like this: you only need to succeed once, and you can fail a million times to get to said success. So the odds to me sound amazing. Like, okay, I just need to succeed once, right? So
Yeah,
let me just keep trying. But
yeah,
it's not just a matter
exactly.
of yeah, it's not just a matter of keep on trying. It's a matter of actually taking the feedback from failure.
Man, that's the thing, bro. Is that you really only need to succeed one time. Because once you succeed one time,
Mhm,
what happens is you expand your mind. And
mhm,
there's this quote that I heard years ago, which said that a mind stretched by new experiences can never go back to its old dimensions. So if you experience that success
mhm,
one time, you've now locked it into your memory that you can do this. You this is a possibility. Bro,
mhm.
I remember one time in a week I made 10K and I was like, "What? Like this is possible?" Bro, my first time making a high ticket sale in 30 minutes, 2K. I was what? Bro, there was a time where I used to work for 2 months just to make 2K. So it's like when I had the experience, it's like my mind was like, okay, so not only is this possible, but other things are possible too. Like what is more? And that's bro,
Mhm,
that's success. When you see successful people, whether they're billionaires, millionaires, even if we take money out of the picture, if we look at people who conquered societies, like if we look at the
mhm,
prophet,
mhm,
peace be upon him, if we look at all the greatest conquerors, like Alexander the
mhm.
Great, was Napoleon Bonaparte? Was he a conqueror as well?
I would consider him a conqueror.
Okay. Anyways, you get the picture. Conquerors. What's his name? I have to say this dude, Genghis Khan. Right? These people, bro. If you think about it, all that happened, all that happened was that they had success one time. Once they had success one time, it opened their mind, and they were like, "Oh, okay. Well, what else is possible?" See, when you don't have success and you keep having failure, you start to limit yourself. You have
Mhm,
this belief like, oh, like
mhm,
it's not possible. You know, when someone would have told me before, oh, bro, you can make 10K in a week, you can make 2K in 30 minutes, I would be like, it's not possible, bro. Like there's no way.
mhm,
Like, yeah, other people are doing it, but they have something that I don't. That's the
mhm,
way of thinking that we have, bro.
mhm.
And just having that success one time, it's really all it takes, bro.
Yeah, I agree with you because it shows you that impossible is possible. and that one success is serves as a flywheel that begins to build momentum to help you move towards your goal. And what it also serves to do is to prove to you that you can do it. And that semblance of self-belief, I believe, is the reason why that flywheel begins to build momentum. And one thing I do want to bring up that related back to no-fap here is one thing that also helped me stop fapping is having the right role models. Like the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Muhammad Fateh, the guy who conquered Constantinople, Tamerlane, the I would sit down and think, were these guys fapping? Was Khalid ibn Walid fapping?
There you
No,
go.
he
There you
wasn't
go, bro.
fapping. So if
Bro, actually, I wanted to bring that back, and forgive me for cutting you off, man, but think about the people back then when they were like 12, 13 years old. They were men already.
yeah,
Bro, we get to 30 years old, we're still childs. We're,
mhm,
we're still children, bro. So it's like that shows the reality. That
mhm,
shows that if a man, and even if the boy is like 10 years old, I'm still gonna call him
mhm,
a man because at the end of the day, he is
mhm,
what he is. It's just a matter
mhm,
of owning up to it. So if a man at 12 years old decides, and that's all it takes is a decision,
mhm,
decides that this is what I'm gonna do, this is what I have to do, this is how I'm
mhm,
gonna do it, and that's it. They go straight in. Bro,
mhm,
like the things that will happen with that
mhm.
is incomprehensible.
Yeah, and I believe the reason why so many boys are now becoming men at a younger age is because we live in a time where everything is incredibly comfortable. We don't put ourselves in that discomfort. We don't seek that sense of eustress. So eustress refers to the positive stress that helps you grow. People run away from that stress now. That's why we see so many 30, 40-year-old neats, for an anime reference, sitting at home playing video games all day because they're more comfortable putting the online persona they have on GTA or Minecraft through difficulty to increase their levels than to actually do it themselves. Why? Because they know if they fail in real life, there's legitimate consequences. But on a video game, yes, you're emotionally bought into the video game, but it's not like you're going to lose your job. It's not like you're going to lose respect. It's not like you're going to lose any other thing you have value in. Yes, you might lose a couple time hours of playing that video game, but there's no real consequences. And the fact that
Yeah,
people run away from said consequences is why I believe so many people aren't moving from boyhood to manhood. You need that ritual initiation, which during the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that was war or going out to do caravan raids. And I do want to bring this to, I think it was I read the Prophet Muhammad's biography, and there's one quote that really stuck out to me is that I may be paraphrasing this, refers to one of the Sahaba, I believe, or the friends of the Prophet,
yeah, the companions.
the companions, my apologies. He got a finger prick during war, and he says, "What is the loss of blood from said finger upon the path of Allah? It's very minuscule." But we have men today or boys today who prick their finger from a paper cut and they're sitting at home crying for 3, 4 hours, complaining that, oh, I pricked my finger.
I feel you. I feel you. This goes back to the thing where maybe you heard of it, right?
Mhm,
Where it says that hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and then
mhm,
weak men create hard times. And it's a
mhm.
cycle.
Yeah.
It's a continuous cycle, and no one is free from this, right? You look at every single man in history, every single man is subject to that cycle. But the
Mhm,
question is, can they keep themselves in the hard time? Can they keep
mhm,
themselves experiencing pain and suffering? Because
mhm.
think about it, what actually develops a boy into a man?
Pain and suffering.
Pain and suffering, right?
Mhm,
But then the good times make the boy soft.
mhm,
Clearly, you can see that in not just your own life, but in well, the society around you. Now that you have this, right? If you have a man who understands this, internalizes it, well, then he knows that even when times are good, he has to put himself through suffering where it's
mhm,
voluntary.
mhm,
Voluntarily, he's putting himself through the suffering.
mhm,
Why? Because it's going to come at one point or another. And that's not to say,
Mhm,
hey, don't ever enjoy yourself in your life. Yeah, yeah, you have to have some points where you enjoy yourself. But it's to
mhm,
say that if you fall into that
mhm,
trap of let me just uh bro, like you're done. Like
mhm,
think about back then when they used to go to war. Think about back then when they used to go hunting, when they used to do all these things. Bro, you only had small moments where times were peaceful and you got to be with your wife or your kids or any friends in the village or the tribe. But then what? You went straight back into the war. Like the times of just chilling out and relaxing, it's more
mhm,
so for the women and for
mhm,
the kids and for the elderly. As a man, like you have responsibility and you
mhm,
have to take hold of it, or else
mhm,
you're never going to fully embrace masculinity and what it means to be a real man. You will always be a little child, a little boy,
mhm.
bro.
Yeah, and it relates to the Nietzschean concept of will to power, that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I do believe that the way you go through said suffering is you need to have a why to survive anyhow. You need to find that meaning in said suffering. And I want to relate this to the Islamic concept of after every hardship comes ease. How I view it is that God puts you through said hardships because he has high expectations for you and he wants you to meet said expectations. And when you meet said expectations, it builds your character, and that building in character results in the said ease to come. For purpose, I believe that the greatest semblance of purpose is the submission to a creator, because it's that submission to said creator that allows you to know that. Sorry, go ahead.
It connects all the pieces of the puzzle
Mhm.
together. It's the glue in between everything.
Yes.
This is where, bro, like now we can go back to what you were saying about your experience, like coming to God and how that changed everything. If you don't have God in your life, what we focus on is our desires, right? I want this. I want to feel good.
Mhm,
I want to be talking to multiple women. I
mhm,
want to have this money because I want to buy whatever I want. I want to travel. I want to have
mhm,
this Lamborghini right here, this Ferrari, right?
mhm,
It's just desires, bro. Desires, desires, desires. And the problem with hedonism is that it's an empty approach. It sucks you in because it feels good, but
mhm,
then afterwards you are left empty. Ask every single person who has
mhm,
walked down that path,
mhm,
right? Like you said it yourself, it was
mhm,
all empty for you. You were asking
mhm,
yourself these questions like why? Like why am I doing this? Bro,
mhm,
how many other men are out here asking the same exact question to themselves? Right? And then this is where again we come back to God. Why is God so important? Because it allows you to connect the pieces. Now you
mhm,
understand what you're doing. Like, okay, you're doing self improvement,
mhm,
right? But you're not doing self improvement so that you can have sex with as many women as you want. You're not doing self improvement so that you could basically have this money and this power,
mhm,
bro. You're not doing it for any of these things. You're doing it so that way you can fulfill your purpose. And when you
mhm,
fulfill your purpose, what does that do for you as a
mhm,
man? Like, bro, ask any man who
mhm,
doesn't have God in their lives and ask them,
mhm,
what does fulfilling your purpose do for you? You know
mhm.
what they'll say?
What would they say?
Well, I can't speak for all of them, right? But what they would say around
Mhm,
the lines is something very similar to it is that they actually don't know what the hell it would do for them. But what they know is that they have to do it. So they have one part of the equation correct. They know
mhm,
that they have to do it, which is correct. We have to do our purpose. When we have
mhm,
something that we're setting out our time and our energy to, we
mhm,
have to do it. It's our mission. It's our main mission. You play a video game, you have
mhm,
the main mission. Imagine only doing the side missions. Bro, how long could you play the game for before you're just like, oh, what the hell am I doing? Right. So you need a main mission. So, okay, they have that part correct. But then when they accomplish this main mission, then what, bro? I had a friend who told me that he was in Thailand and he knew this fighter, this professional
mhm,
fighter. Bro, he lost his parents at a young age and he was fighting ever since a young age. And his dream was to win the belt. Now, he entered a competition. And if he would have won the competition, he would have gotten, I think, $1 million prize and he would have
mhm,
gotten the belt. Bro, man's won the competition.
Mhm.
Man won the competition. He got $1 million and he
Mhm.
got the belt, bro. He fulfilled his purpose. Can you guess what happened next?
He felt empty.
Bro, he was in his car
Mhm.
crying, bro, because he didn't know. He's like, "Well, what do I do now? I fulfilled my purpose. I fulfilled my dream. Like, what do I do now?" The
Mhm.
money didn't mean anything to him. The
Mhm.
success didn't mean anything to him. So it's again, the purpose is just one part of the equation. But when you fulfill your purpose, if you have God in the equation, when you
Mhm.
fulfill the purpose, it brings you closer to God. And the closer
Mhm.
you are to God, bro, that's the state that I'm gonna say as humans, but more so as
Mhm.
men, this is what
Mhm.
we are
Mhm.
seeking, bro. Sometimes we don't even realize we're seeking that, but that's what we are seeking.
This life is a temporary delusion, and one day we will wake up to see this world without its makeup. And I do believe that God gives us that temporary feeling of success to show us that I don't need you, you need me. But when you remember me, I'll remember you. And if you walk towards me, I will run towards you.
Facts.
And I believe that it goes to show that life is a consistent hero's journey that cycles itself again and again and again and again. It's not just one hero's journey where you have one purpose, you fulfill it. No, it's more so a movement towards self-actualization, towards and what I define as self-actualization is moving back towards your fitra or your natural predisposition, which is the underlying submission to a higher power. Because there's no form of greater power for man to submit themselves to the greatest authority.
That's facts, bro. And most people think that submitting to God is weak and that they're not gonna submit to anything. But here they are actually unknowingly submitting to their sexual desires. They have a thought that comes in
Mhm,
of beating off to other people, getting off, and then out of nowhere they just submit to it. They go and they do it. So it's
mhm,
like you have to understand as humans, we always submit to something. We
mhm,
either submit to our own desires, right? Some men, they're very weak and they have women who control them and they
mhm,
tell them what to do and they'll submit. They'll do
mhm,
exactly what the woman says. And even if the woman's treating them like absolute shit, bro, they will do exactly what the woman says. Then you have people who they submit to the
mhm,
money. Right? You have people who they
mhm,
take drugs, they drink alcohol. And when they do these things, what happens? You submit to the intoxicant. When you drink alcohol, what happens when you drink a little too much? You black out, bro. You're drunk. You're done. You have no control anymore. Is that or is that not submitting? Bro, you do psychedelics. What do they tell you when you do psychedelics? Oh, you have to let go. You have to let go. Bro, when you let go, is that not submitting? When you listen to music, and let's say you're trying to learn how to dance, they tell you, oh, you need to let go. You need to feel the music. The moment you do that, and then you start feeling the music and your body starts moving, you got a beat going and you're just bobbing, bro, you submitted to the music, whether you realize it or not. So when you realize that you are submitting to something, well, then you have to ask the question, what exactly do you want to submit to? Which is a weird question to ask. Like, who asks themselves, oh, what do I actually want to submit to in my life? Bro, no one asks themselves this question, but in reality, that's the question you have to ask. Because if you submit to God, if you can learn what God actually is, and you can learn this by just reflecting, right? You don't have to go anywhere special. You don't have to do anything special. Just go for a walk, right? Sit with yourself and just reflect over what God is. And you will come to know, like, the answer is there inside of you. So you come to this understanding over what God is. And then now you ask yourself, do you want to submit to God? Where when you do submit to God, He only gives you more. He only blesses you more in your life. Or do you want to submit to your desires? Right? Or you submit to your sexual desires and it will constantly lead you to relapsing. Or it'll constantly lead you to having to seek women, whether it's their attention, whether it's their assets, you know what I'm talking about, right? Whether it's seeking money, right? You're submitting to the money because well, money is everything for you. You need to have money in your life. if you submit to anything other than God, it will always leave you empty. It's a smokescreen.
How we view God is how God is to us. So one thing that really helped me was that when you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is when you open the Quran for the first time, is that you're evoking the mercy of God. So viewing God as somebody who is merciful is something that really helped bring me back to religion. I no longer viewed God as this all authority patriarchal figure that was sitting on a throne and telling me, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, as the Catholic Church had convinced society to believe. Because yes, I was born Muslim, but I lived in a Western society. And my understanding of religion came from a Western perspective. And I was talking to Rami about this yesterday, and Rami brought this up, which is a very interesting point, is that a lot of what the West understands about their own history comes from the Islamic civilization. During Baghdad, the Islamic Renaissance, the Golden Age, they translated all the Greek and Roman literature. And the only way for the Europeans who were in their dark age at that time to read said literature, they had to go to Islamic universities. They had to go to Arab lands.
Hmm.
So for all the Muslims that believe, oh, what has Islam done for the West? For all the Westerners who believe, what has Islam done for us other than send immigrants to our country and quote unquote ruin society? The only reason you even experienced the Renaissance age was because you read our literature. And the point with alcohol too, like alcohol in Arabic, I believe means flesh-eating spirit. So it comes down to the idea of karmic retribution, where they have to tell you what they're doing to you to result in you being responsible for it. Because on the day of judgment,
Hmm.
when you're in front of God, this meditation also helped me with stopping fapping. I would close my eyes and think, okay, when I'm standing in front of God and He's telling me, why did you fap? Who am I going to blame? I can't blame anybody else. So it's a semblance of having God help me bear responsibility to help understand that everything comes from that everything is my fault. Help me move towards accepting or stopping fapping.
Bro, it's actually crazy that you say that
Mhm,
because we have to we have to agree. Right? Okay,
mhm,
think about someone who's like they're trying to hypnotize you. What they're doing doesn't work if you don't agree,
mhm,
if you don't comply,
mhm,
right? So it's like these magic tricks as well where they're trying to do something different, like veer your attention off to something else. It doesn't work if you don't comply, if you're not
mhm,
like fully submitting. And then think about what you just said. You said that actually remind me because my mind's like running in 100 different directions right now. What you were
mhm,
saying about the alcohol, right? What is it's saying flesh eating spirit. And it's crazy because alcohol is known as spirits. That's the name for it, spirits.
yeah, and
Right?
Jin.
So it's literally telling you what it's going to do to you. And if you look into these stories where it talks about possession, being
Mhm,
possessed,
mhm,
everyone knows about this. Some people believe it, some people don't. But something that I learned is that you can't be possessed unless you comply, unless you accept. And it's again, it goes back to like if someone's doing psychedelics, what are they
mhm,
told? They're told to let go. Quit trying
mhm,
to fight the trip. Just let go. Go into it. Bro, when you let go, you are complying. You are
mhm,
literally accepting, like, yes, go ahead. Do anything
mhm,
you want. Bro, so again, it's like when you submit to anything else other than God, you are literally complying and saying, yes, like, go ahead. Do whatever it is that you want to my life. But does that not like does that blow your mind? Imagine a man he's a degenerate. And I'm gonna say how it is, right? Because I was in this position. But imagine you have a man and he doesn't give a damn about God. And it's like you
mhm,
said, God is how the person sees them. If the person doesn't see God as anything, God doesn't see the person as anything either. So they will
mhm,
have no blessing, no direction, no guidance,
mhm,
no nothing in their life. So
mhm,
let's say this person doesn't care about God. All he cares about money. All he cares about is getting women. All he cares about is having sex and all that stuff. Okay. So let's say he starts doing that and he starts having sex with women. Bro,
Mhm,
if the moment he does this and he's starting to have sex with multiple women, he
mhm,
thinks to himself, I'm doing it, bro. I'm doing it. Like, I'm him. That's what he thinks. I'm him. I
mhm,
got the money. I got the status. I got the women. I'm him. Right? But then out of nowhere, you realize that by having sex with multiple women, you are complying with them and you're saying, hey, do whatever it is that you want with me. I
mhm,
submit. Now, someone will say, well, how does that mean that? What the hell are you trying to say? Bro, listen. Listen to what I'm saying. You have sex with multiple women. What is the possibility realistically that can happen when you have multiple sexual partners? STDs, HIV, AIDS. Come on now. So even if you're not emotionally attached to the woman, even if you
mhm,
just, I'm not gonna use the term because it's very vulgar, but you get the picture. You're going from one to the other, one to the other.
mhm,
Even if you're doing this and you're thinking you're winning, you're actually losing
mhm,
because you are exposing yourself to all these sexually transmitted diseases that, bro,
mhm,
once you get one of them, if you get AIDS or HIV, bro, you're done. You're done, bro. You
mhm,
have that for the rest of your life. Like, congratulations, you really won. You see what I'm saying? It's like when you comply, when you submit to
mhm.
anything other than God, bro, you are literally effing yourself in the ass. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no way around that.
So I was on a podcast with Lord Burr, and he brought this up, which I thought was incredibly interesting. Is he applied Ohm's law to libido? So if you resist said desires, that will give you more voltage or energy to use to pursue your goals. And we discussed a bit of psychedelic use, and I think it was on one of the three Muslim podcast episodes that this was brought up, where when somebody trips on ayahuasca, they see entities, like these blue entities, and originally those entities are very nice to you. They deceive you to
It's a
believing that they're your
smokescreen.
friends.
Yeah.
Yes, it's an illusion because eventually, after you trip 4, 5, 6, 7 times, they come for your soul.
Oh, bro, I'm getting goosebumps. It all switches, bro. It
Yeah,
all switches up on you. They're no longer that nice friend of yours.
and I used to do a lot of shrooms. Originally, the first shroom trip I ever had was amazing. I'm like, "Wow, what an experience." I know so much about myself. Then what ended up happening was the more shrooms I did, the more I started relying on it, the more panic attacks I would have. The more it would start negatively impacting me, the more these voices in my head would start consuming me. And one story, I think Jerry Merzinski and Lord Bear did a podcast episode. On that podcast episode, they talk about how these thoughts aren't actually yours. There's entities whispering these thoughts into you. So Jerry actually brought up a story about how when he worked with schizophrenic patients, they would say like there are these entities, these different things in my head talking to me and telling me to do these things to you. And I would relate that to the understanding of jinn or these unseen beings who their sole goal is to ensure that you deviate from the path towards God.
I don't think people are there yet to understand that. I know what you mean, but I
Mhm,
don't think people are there yet. It's all they should know is that there are things in this world which we cannot see. But when we take these things, suddenly we can see them. Suddenly
mhm,
we can hear them. We can feel them. Some people even feel these things. So it's this world for the people who think that it's all just what's in front of us, what we see.
mhm.
It's not that by any means. Yeah, bro. Listen, I want to say something here. You said you were talking to Lord Bear. I forgot what his real name is.
Ibrahim or Matthew Hutchinson.
Yeah, real name is Matthew. His other name, Muslim name is Ibrahim. He's talking about the energy. He's saying that
Mhm,
if you resist a desire,
mhm,
so let's say you have an urge to watch pornography, you resist this desire,
mhm,
then what ends up happening is that you now have more energy. Okay, because the urge, that's all it was. It was just energy starting to rise up inside of you. But
mhm,
if you submit to it, well, guess what? Now the energy does whatever it wants with you. And we don't even have to go into like, oh, Where's it coming from? Where's the energy coming from? Like, who's
Mhm.
making that? We don't have to get into all that. We don't have to get into intricacies right now. When you have an urge, it's energy starting to rise up inside of you. If you
Mhm.
can use that energy for something else, it's called, in this case, it's called sexual transmutation. But
Mhm.
in any other case, it's called just energy transmutation. It's a
Mhm.
very fancy word, which
Mhm.
essentially means you're just taking what's rising up inside of you and then you're using it. So imagine this. You're watching a motivational video. You start getting inspired. And then you go and you use that inspiration to go to the gym. Maybe you didn't feel like going to the gym before, but now you use the inspiration and now you're going hard in the gym, boy,
Mhm.
right? Or maybe you didn't feel like doing work. You felt this
Mhm.
resistance. So you watch this motivational video, it got you fired up, and then you go and you start the work. It's the same concept. Everything in this life is energy. So
Mhm.
even the urge rising up is energy, but
Mhm.
also even your emotions are energy. See, this
Mhm.
is where I would say men, we have a advantage when
Mhm.
it comes to women. Now, I'm not here
Mhm.
to put down women. Some of the best people in my life are women. I love women. That's not what I'm trying to say. But think about the man and then think about the woman. The man is less emotionally pulled than the woman. Now, the man
Mhm.
has emotions
Mhm.
just the same as the woman, but the man is less pulled by these emotions than the woman, especially if he's on his purpose, especially if he
Mhm.
has direction. Now, if you're less pulled by emotion, then that means that you can control the emotion more. If you can control an emotion, it's the same thing.
Mhm.
It's energy rising up, and you
Mhm.
can use it for whatever it is that you want
Mhm.
to in this life. And, bro, think about a man. What is the emotion that a man experiences the most?
I don't know, to be honest.
Well, think about yourself, bro. You're a man. In your life, what's the emotion you experience the most?
I'm not gonna lie, probably sexual desire. It's not really an emotion, but that's probably what's on my head sometimes.
No, okay, so there's sexual desire, yes, but
Mhm.
that's like you said, that's not an emotion. I'll ask you a question. Do you feel anger?
Oh, yes, you're correct. It is anger. Especially when your testosterone's really high, it is definitely anger and frustration.
There you go. Let's say you have a mission. You're setting out to do something. As you're trying to do it, the way that you're doing it is not working out. Or what
Mhm.
is instantly happening inside of you? Frustration, anger. Bro, this is a gift. Literally, this is a gift from God who created us so perfectly because
Mhm.
every man has this inherent anger because why? Because we have high levels of testosterone.
Mhm.
Women have lower levels of testosterone.
Mhm.
So it's not to say that women don't have anger, they have it too.
Mhm.
But men, we have more anger than women. So, okay, if this is the emotion we feel the most of, and it's a damn strong emotion, right? The stronger the emotion, the more power you have into putting it into other things. Right, bro. There was when I was young, I used to play basketball and I used to train by myself. And this was before I started playing with other people, like playing
Mhm.
pickup games and all that stuff. But I would be shooting by myself, and a lot of people will shoot by themselves. They'll have fun with it. But
Mhm.
for me, it was fun, but there was so much anger involved, and I had no
Mhm.
idea what the hell I was doing. I was a kid, but I would try to, let's say, do a cross and then do like the reverse spin, but a
Mhm.
fake, and then come back and then hit the jump shot. I would
Mhm.
try to do this, and it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. So instead of just repeating it without emotion, it was not possible. I would just get angry. I would keep getting more
Mhm.
and more angry and frustrated, frustrated, frustrated. And the more angry I got, if I let the emotion control me, then I would not do anything. Like all the shots would continue to miss and it would just get worse and worse. But
Mhm.
if I just took that second, got the anger, and basically just got a hold of myself, like smack myself across the face. Literally, I
Mhm.
would smack myself across the face. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna do it here because, like, we're doing a podcast. Like, there's no reason to smack myself across the face. But I would smack myself across the face, and it's like everything would just like everything was zone in. And
Mhm.
then now I would do the move with the utmost focus, almost like
Mhm.
I had entered, like, bro, as if I had gone Super Saiyan. as if I
Mhm,
entered a completely new level. Bro,
mhm,
all my thoughts completely gone, all my emotions completely gone. I was super hyper focused, and then the next time I did it, that perfect. Next
mhm,
time, perfect, perfect,
mhm,
perfect. And then that just led to the training having exponential results. Now, I don't play
mhm.
basketball like I used to in the day, but that's example to show that when you can harness, when you can control the emotion, whether it's sadness, happiness, or for a man, anger, if it's always coming up, bro, like the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, this is actually how I beat my own social anxiety is I began to view my emotion as energy in motion. Energy that I could channel from feeling socially anxious into focusing in on the present moment and honing in on the person I'm talking to. And confidence, in essence, is the lack of insecurity you feel in the moment. And the only way for said person to feel a lack of insecurity is by remaining in the present. That's why in Jungian psychology, when they focus on treating a patient, they focus on the present moment, whereas Freud focuses on the past. And the result in the person no longer bearing responsibility on the present situation. Because how I view things is people run away from the obstacles they face, and because they run away from said obstacle, they don't know how to channel their libido or their energy in the right direction, which results in them getting depressed, which results in them feeling anxious. So it's understanding that the obstacle in the way becomes the way when you actually confront said obstacle.
Yeah, facts. Facts, bro. It's again, this is what it means for a man to like go through the rites of passage. Like he needs to do the thing that he doesn't want to do. And
Mhm,
it's not a reference to Hamza, which, oh, do the hard work even when you don't feel like it.
mhm,
Not a hit on him, but it's to say that every single man, we
mhm,
know what we have to do. It's just a matter of actually doing it. And like you said, the only way out is through. If you have
mhm,
trauma from your childhood, if you're feeling all this pain and it's affecting you in today,
mhm,
the only way out is through. You have
mhm,
to experience those emotions. You have to experience the memories that are trying to replay themselves in your head
mhm,
in order to get past it, right? You want to be successful. The
mhm,
only way out is through. You have to do the work. You know what I'm saying? Like you want a physique. You want a proper physique. You have to do the work in the gym. You're not just gonna wake up one day and then boom, out of nowhere, you got this six pack in your
mhm,
diesel. It's not gonna
mhm.
happen, bro.
Yeah, and it reminds me of a story. I may be butchering the story, but this is how I remember it. It's of Alexander the Great. So I remember his chariot, how he got his chariot was there was a story behind if the person who gets this chariot, sorry, I messed up the story. So basically, there was a knot, I believe, on the chariot or something, and the prophet or the oracle would say that whoever breaks said knot will conquer the rest of the known world. And everybody would spend time trying to untie the knot, untie the knot, untie the knot. They wouldn't be able to untie the knot. And then Alexander the Great came and he used his sword and cut the knot. And he said this, and this is stuck to me till this day, is we forge destiny with the hilt of our sword.
Huh. Bro, this actually reminds me. I can't recall it fully, but I think it was something that Alexander the Great said as well. Oh, I remember. I remember,
Mhm,
bro. It's a story actually. It plays on yours. It adds to what you just said, right? So, uh, God willing, I can remember everything perfectly.
mhm,
Alexander the Great, he at the time he wanted to conquer so and so city. He wanted to be the greatest conqueror alive. Give me one second, bro. So he went to one of these like palm readers, and then he asked her, "So read my fate. Will I conquer the world? Will I be the greatest conqueror alive?" She starts reading his palm, doing all that weird stuff. And she's like, "Oh well, in regards to this here, this line like this, and you're not going to be the greatest conquering line in the world because, well, you see this line. Actually, hold my hand up. You see this line right here. Yeah, it if it had gone all the way, like it's yours stops here, but if it had gone all the way, then you would have conquered the entire world. You know what he did? He pulled out a knife and he stabbed it into his hand, And then he
Mhm.
pulled it all the way down to the point she said, and then he said, "Read my hand again." Bro, that shows that it's like you have to go through it. You have to do it.
Mhm,
Now, I'm not here to say anything about like, oh, changing destiny in that way or changing
mhm,
like what's predetermined, but
mhm,
it just goes to show like you need to have that willpower and you need to
mhm,
just like be determined in what it is that you're trying to
mhm.
achieve.
I know this isn't related, but it also reminds me of a story of Khalid ibn Walid, where he wanted to die on the battlefield, but I remember the Caliph Omar sent him back home. So in old age, he actually died at home in his bed, and his final words were, "May the eyes of a coward never sleep." And when I read that line as well, it hit me. Am I gonna live the rest of my life being a coward?
That's a real question, bro. Because most men, we know inherently if we're being a coward or if we're not. There's a specific type of work not many
Mhm,
people want to do where you go door to door. You have to
mhm,
knock. This type of work can have a lot of success. You learn a lot
mhm,
in the process, but you have to get rejected so many times, right? And if I were to tell a man, hey, in order to learn selling the best
mhm,
way possible, you should do door to door sales for some time, right? In
mhm,
order to get over the fear of rejection, you should do door to door sales for some time, right? For non-Muslims, like when I was a Muslim, I used to try to go talk to women and just get rejected until I got over the fear of rejection.
mhm,
But another amazing way to do this is to do door to door sales. If I were to tell you this and you know now, okay, this is how I do that, but then you don't want to do it because you don't want to get rejected. Who wants to get rejected? You want to
mhm,
go through that pain. You don't
mhm,
want to have to put your ego aside and stoop down to that level. You're not stooping down to any level. You're just
mhm,
doing a job, right? So you're doing this, and if you don't put the emotions aside, because remember what I
mhm,
said in the beginning, what I heard in the podcast is emotions push, ideas direct. So if you have this emotion of, oh, I don't really want to do this, I don't do that, but you have no, that you're missing the idea of like, okay, what is this going to actually do? Where's the direction that it's
mhm,
heading me in? Well, then the emotion is going to push you away from achieving that. It's going to push you away from doing what you have to do, and it's going to push
mhm,
you into basically a life of being a coward. Because what I learned a long time ago is that if you were here with me right now and we were to go outside and we
mhm,
were to talk with other people, we were to
mhm,
have conversations. If I knew you were there with me, perhaps I might act differently. Perhaps I might say or do things differently, right? Because
mhm,
you're there. But then when you're not there, perhaps I might act and say things differently as well. Now,
mhm,
the thing is, a little side note, we already know who's always there, which is God. God is
mhm,
always there in every single moment.
mhm.
But now let's take a step back, right? What are we as humans? What do you think?
What are we? The Khalifa of God upon earth.
Okay, so you would say that, but how are we experiencing this world?
Through our vision, our senses,
But what is catching on to the senses that actually allows us to perceive everything?
our consciousness.
What is our consciousness?
It's a very complex question because you can split the conscious into the
Exactly,
conscious,
bro.
the personal unconscious, the collective unconscious, and then God states, I believe in the Quran, that says when they
Yes,
question you
but
about the
but you're
soul,
getting it. You're getting it.
yeah,
You're getting it. You're getting it. That's the beautiful
mm,
thing, right? So our consciousness is always there. Our soul is always there. You have the conscious, you have the subconscious, you have the unconscious. When we are doing things, we are constantly observing our own actions, right? So
mm,
if I do something where I didn't want to do it, like for example, when I wasn't Muslim, there was a time where I was going to step out and really
Mhm,
start asking women, like really start trying to pick up women. And throughout my entire life, I had never done that. So when I did it for the first time, bro, I was like, oh, like I didn't want to. I didn't want
mhm,
to go and talk to this girl. And I remember I was in the supermarket, bro, and I was about to say something, but I didn't say anything. So I walked away, and then I went into a different aisle, and I was just like talking in my head to myself. I bet you they probably, if they saw it on camera, they'd be like, "What the hell? This guy's mental, bro." And I was like, I came to the conclusion. I was like, no, I have to grab my balls, and I just have to do it. I
mhm,
said, "F it." I went in,
mhm,
regardless of how I felt, regardless of how awkward it was, and I got this girl's number. It's I don't care if I got the number or not, but what I'm saying is the example is like I didn't want to do it. I did it anyways. And by
mhm,
doing that, I showed to myself that it's
mhm,
like me. It's
mhm,
like me to overcome anxiety, to overcome fear, to overcome
mhm,
doubt. And that's like what we were saying. You
mhm.
just need success one time. Once you have the success one time, it opens your mind. So now that I
Mhm.
had that experience, I was like, oh, what else can I do?
Guys, we've been attacked by the Matrix. The Matrix has come on and taken down Aanghel right when it was getting good, right when it was getting good. So we're gonna end it here, and we're gonna do a part two. So like, comment, subscribe, like, comment, subscribe to Anghel's channel as well, and stay tuned for part two in about a week. And not only that, I started a Patreon, so please subscribe to the Patreon and help fund this new movement. Take care, everybody.